it's Alice, and today we are doing a very big but also very exciting book haul. The beginning of a new year always results in my TBR growing so much because I get so excited watching everyone's like favorite books of the year lists and videos. I get excited about new releases. I also make new reading goals, which makes me even more excited about reading. And all of this has resulted in a very, very big stack of books, which, to be honest, I'm not mad about. I do have a lot to show you though, so we should probably just jump in, and let's start with some mystery books. First, we have this, which I've been eyeing for a while. This is The Woman in the Library by Sulari Gentill, and this is about a murder that takes place in a library, which I'm very much into. What happens is that it's just a normal day in the library. It's quiet, as libraries usually are, and I think that there's this horrific scream that breaks the silence, and I'm assuming that is like when the murder happens, and the security people of the library contain the scene very quickly, and they keep everyone in, and we meet 4 people who randomly sit together at a table, and I think one of them is the murderer. I think that just sounds like a fantastic setup, and I love the idea of the setting, and I just like the idea of these 4 people sitting down and one of them is a killer. Like, I wonder how that's gonna be. It also says on the back that this is a sophisticated mystery with more layers than an onion, and for some reason, whenever a book is described as an onion, I immediately think that I'm gonna like it. Secondly, we have a new release. It's Voyage of the Damned by Frances White, and this is obviously a very beautiful book. It's very shiny, and it sounds amazing. It's a mix of fantasy and mystery, which I'm really into. The story is set in a magical land where we have an emperor, and he sends one of his ships on this voyage to a sacred mountain or something. I think this happens every year in this world, and on the ship there are 12 heirs to the 12 different provinces of the emperor's land, and they all have magical abilities, I think, which already I'm intrigued. But then this is a mystery novel as well, and one of the heirs during this voyage is murdered, and obviously they're all stuck on this ship, and it can only be one of the people on the ship who is the killer. It just sounds absolutely perfect, and I love this kind of setup where we're in a confined space and there are only a certain amount of people that could be involved in like the case, and I just think it sounds great. Like, that in combination with magic and magical abilities and like fantasy, I think is really good. This is a little bit of a chunky book, but looking at it, the font is pretty big, so it shouldn't be that long of a read. And I also noticed that all of the chapters have like a crest on it, which maybe represents the different provinces. But yeah, I'm just really, really intrigued by this. Then I had to pick up this. This is The Fury by Alex Michaelides, which is also a new release. And it's about this reclusive ex-movie star who gathers up her friends to go like on a trip to a private Greek island. And then, of course, they get there and someone is murdered. And again, we have this thing where it can only be a certain amount of people, and I think maybe they're stuck on this island as well. That's all I really know about this. I'm very intrigued by it. I quite like this author. Like, there's something about the way that he writes that just intrigues me, and I think it's gonna be good. I also really like this cover. It's weird, but I really like it. Next, we have The Society for Soulless Girls by Laura Stephen, which is a YA mystery, but one of the reasons I really want to read it is because it's set at a school, and that's one of my favorite settings for like mysteries, and just a lot of books in general actually. But it's set at this elite art school that is reopening after 10 years because I think it shut down because 4 students died, and it's been 10 years, and we meet someone who's going to the school and is really intrigued by this mystery and kind of want to like solve it. But when she starts like delving into it, there seems to be something supernatural going on, and maybe there's something to do with a ritual or something, which it just sounds very intriguing. Last of the mysteries, we have a cozy one, and also like a small one. This is a very small book for some reason. It's In the Company of Witches by Auralee Wallace, and just looking at this cover makes me feel cozy. It's about this woman who, I think she runs a B&B with her aunt, or she's just there to help out. And I think maybe she's a witch. Yeah, I think they're all witches in this family. And a murder takes place at the B&B, like one of the guests is murdered or dies. And our main character has to figure out who did it because they suspect her aunt. So she kind of has to clear her aunt's name. I just think it sounds really cozy. I think it's set in a small town. I like the idea of this bed and breakfast. It just sounds really nice. The font is a little bit tiny in this edition, but it also has these cats in the chapters, which I like. Then we have a very small dystopia section. I got this book because I saw it on a lot of people's favorite books of the year lists, and I've just been seeing it everywhere, and it sounds really good, so I had to get it. It's Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah, and it's about these female prisoners who seem to partake in this like gladiator type thing or Hunger Games type thing where they fight to the death, and they're all prisoners, and I think if you win, you get to be set free or something. It sounds like an insane setup, but then again, that's kind of what the dystopian genre is all about, and it's why I like it so much. I love a good dystopian novel, and I like the idea of sort of exploring prisons and having some discussions around that because it's a layered and complicated thing, and I'm intrigued to see it in a dystopian setting. I do know that not everyone gets on with this book, like I've seen some mixed reviews, but I don't know, I have to give it a go because I think I might really like it. Next, we have some books that I'm going to call horror-ish because I can't entirely tell what level of horror these books are, but the first one that I got was The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. I got this because I read the book Nettle and Bone by this author and I loved it, and I just want to read some more of her books. This has some fantasy elements to it, and it's about this woman who discovers this portal in her uncle's home, and this portal can take you to all of these different alternate realities, but then I think in these realities there are these creatures that want to eat you or something, which sounds a little creepy but also very intriguing. And one of the things that I really liked about Nettle and Bone is that it had a level of humor to it, which made it feel less dark, but it is still a little bit dark, and I'm hoping that this is gonna have at least some of the same vibe to it. The second one is Boy Parts by Eliza Clark, and I think this is a kind of like contemporary literary horror, and it's about this woman who like obsessively takes these explicit photos of average looking men, and I think she's really into drugs and partying, and these photos that she takes ends up like someone offers her this fancy exhibition in London, and this is supposed to like revive her career. So I'm assuming she was like maybe an up-and-coming artist before, and then something happened. I don't really know, but apparently her getting the news that she's getting this exhibition like makes her self-destruct, and it like draws in her obsessive friend and some random guy. I don't know, but I've seen some reviews for this that made me really intrigued, and I don't really know what to expect, which makes me excited. And it says on the back that it explores the darkest corners of artistic practice, sexuality, and violence, and it's a dazzling, horrifying debut. I am intrigued, but also, honestly, a little scared. Then we're going to do a big translated section because one of my reading goals for the new year is to read more translated books, and I got a little carried away. I got like 7 of them. Anyways, the first one that I got is Welcome to the Hyunam-Dong Bookshop by Hwang Bo-Reum, and this is translated from Korean, and it's about this woman who is just completely burned out. She has a really highly demanding job, she has a demanding marriage, and just a very busy life in Seoul, and she's just had enough. So I think she leaves her job and her marriage, and she goes to this suburb of Seoul, and she opens up a bookshop. That's enough for me, really. I think that sounds amazing. I really like books about new beginnings and sort of being at a crossroads in your life and making some changes. I think that's an interesting thing. And I also just love anything set in a bookshop. The second one that I got is this super short book called Weasels in the Attic by Hiroko Oyamada. And I've seen this author sort of floating around. Like, I've seen the books by this author and I just want to try something. So I got this because it has such a cute cover. This has 3 stories that are set in like different parts of the characters' lives, and I think we meet several characters in like different parts of their lives. And that's all I really know. I'm assuming there are some weasels in here in someone's attic as well. I don't know. I just want to try something by this author and I thought this cover was super cute. Then we have a book translated from Catalan. It's When I Sing Mountains Dance by Irene Solá. And this is set in the Pyrenees Mountains, which is amazing. I don't think I've ever read a book set in that place. And it follows a family through their griefs and joys. And it's sort of about them living their lives and also their interconnectedness with nature. I think it's one of those books that it's a little bit difficult to sort of grasp what it's about. It does say on the back that someone in the family is struck by lightning, and I think that's where the story starts. But yeah, I've heard really good things about the writing in this. There's just something about it that I find intriguing, and I love this title. Like, there's something about the title that just pulls me in. Next, we have a dystopian novel translated from French. It's I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. And this is about a woman who lives in a bunker with 39 other women. And it appears like most of them don't really remember anything from the life before. And I don't think our main character remembers. But then something happens that just shifts their entire reality. And I don't know, this is one of those books where when I first heard the title, which I love, like there's something about the title that it just gets me for some reason. Like when I heard the title and I saw this book, I just had a really good feeling about it and I just decided that I had to read it, so I got it. Then we have another book set in a bookshop, but this one is translated from Japanese. It's Days at the Morisaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yagisawa, and this is about a 25-year-old woman who goes to work in her uncle's bookshop, I believe, after she finds out that her boyfriend is marrying someone else. And she's heartbroken and she's lost and she goes to this bookshop to basically get a break and rest in a way. She's never liked to read before, but then I'm guessing maybe she finds a love of reading in this bookshop. I don't really know. Anything set in a bookshop, I'm just into. And I also really like books about people being lost in their lives. Sounds cool. Second to last of the translated books, we have another Korean one. It's DallerGut Dream Department Store by Mi-yi Lee. And this is kind of like fantasy, I guess, but it's also, I think, set in our contemporary world. I don't really get it, but I think this place is like where you go when you fall asleep and you dream, and you can go to this department store and like dreams are sold there. I don't know, it sounds kind of absurd, but also amazing. And this cover is giving me a vibe that I'm really into. Like, I really wonder what this book has in store. I think we follow a main character who's actually working in this department store. And that's gonna be, I don't know, that's gonna be very interesting to see. It does say on the back that it's like whimsical and captivating, and that it's the first book in a duology for anyone exhausted from the reality of their daily life. Maybe I should read this right away. Then, before moving on, we have Jawbone by Monica Ojeda, and this is translated from Spanish, and I think it has some horror vibes to it. It's set at an academy, which again, I love a good school setting, and we're following these two friends who are so close that they're almost like sisters. And I think what binds them together is that they share a secret. I don't know what that secret is, but it appears like these two friends are a part of a group at the school and they are doing like these rituals. And it says on the back that the rituals are to a rhinestoned, Dior-scented drag queen god that one of them has invented, which is really something. And it sounds interesting. It also sounds a little bit creepy, and I think one of them starts losing their minds. I think it's really gonna take us for a ride, which I'm very intrigued by. The second to last section that we have is fantasy, and we're starting off strong with Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett. This is the sequel to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and in that book we follow this scholar who is making an encyclopedia of fairy lore, and she has like a sidekick slash enemy scholar slash friend who follows her around. Basically, who knows what they get up to in this book, but I'm super excited about it. The first book is one of my favorite books that I read last year, and I just love this. Like, I love the first book so much, and I hope this is going to be a really long series because I'm super into it. It's like cozy and whimsical, but also a little bit dark, and I just love it. I also love this cover, like, so beautiful. Then we have the prequel to Legends and Lattes, which I also loved. It's Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree, and in this one I think we follow the same main character orc that is in the other book, but it's like before the events of that book, obviously, because it's a prequel. And I think she's still in her adventurous, violent days. That's all I really know. I'm assuming there is a bookshop in it, and yeah. I feel like whenever I read like prequels or sequels or whatever, something in a series where I already read one book and really loved it, I never really look into what the next books are about because I loved the first one, so I'm just assuming I'm gonna love everything else. Next, I got The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic by Brianne Randall, which says it's for fans of practical magic and Gilmore Girls, which obviously I'm very into. It's about this witch who has been cursed to endure 4 heartbreaks in her life, and is she cursed or only prophesized to have heartbreaks? I don't really know. But she's returning to her hometown after having been away for a while, and I don't know why she's returning, but she runs into her first heartbreak. And I think that sort of unravels her life or something. I don't really know. Anything witchy, I'm just into. Like, whenever I find a witch book, I just kind of just get it because I love a good book about a witch and I'm always looking for more. So hopefully this will be good. It does seem to be quite romance heavy, which sometimes doesn't work for me, but I'm gonna give it a go. The next one I have is also witchy. It's Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson, and this follows 4 women who are a part of this covert government department, and although they've all like taken an oath to be a part of the secret coven, when we meet them they're like scattered all over the place, but then something happens to, I think someone threatens to like expose the coven, and that sort of brings all of these women together again. I can't quite tell what time this is set in, but I think it's contemporary, and I just think the idea of this sounds really cool. Like, it's a different kind of witch story than I usually read, and I just like the idea of it. It sounds like a lot of fun, but also like a lot of stuff is happening in it, which I'm very excited by. I also think this is the first book in a series, which is cool, and I really hope I'm gonna like this because, again, I just want to read more really good witch books. Then at the end here we have a non-fiction section, starting with The Stranger in the Woods by Michael Finkel. This is a biography about a man who lived alone in the woods for 27 years. I think he went into the woods in the 80s or something, and then he didn't talk to another human for 3 decades. And the only reason he came out of the woods was because he was arrested for stealing food. And it just sounds like such an interesting story. I think he lived out in the woods in a tent for all that time. And it just sounds bizarre, but also like it's just gonna be very interesting to see what's up with this. Lastly, we have a book that I think is gonna rip my heart out, but I am excited for it. It's Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. And this is about, it's a memoir, it's about a psychiatrist who survived life in a Nazi death camp, and it's about how he used that experience to sort of have this philosophy of life that he used in his career, and it's all about how humans can't avoid suffering. We can only really control how we deal with it. And it's all about how humans don't actually want like pleasure and comfort. What humans want is meaning and purpose. And I just think that sounds fascinating. I think this book might break me, but you know what? I'm here for it. I think it's gonna be amazing. Gosh, that was the last book. What a journey it was to get to the end here, but we made it. So many exciting books. It makes me so excited to just read. I want to read all of these right now, and after I finish this video, I'm gonna go read because I really need to start making my way through these. Now, I'd love to know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned, and I'd love to hear what you thought, or if you've picked up any exciting new books lately, I'd love to hear about that. As always, thank you very much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you soon. Bye! Now that I'm looking at my stack, I don't know how I'm gonna hold all of these books up for the thumbnail. I don't know if it's possible, but we're gonna try.